Hey, what are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're just having a great day. So I'm trying really hard to wrap up all these old farm implement projects that we got going on because I super want to work on that thing. We got two more that I got to get knocked out real quick to where we can go ahead and dedicate a couple weeks to park the motor grader in here and actually get some work done on it. So today we're going to try and wrap up the sickle mower and the hay rake, and then once we're done with that, we have everything that we need for the hay operation. So I need to get that checked off the list. So that's gonna be what I try and focus on in this video. As always, there may be something else that makes its way into it, but I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and jump on into it, and let's roll.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands.
So I'm
strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand.
On this one, it's the last zero.
Oh, I've been running from the law.
So
hope they won't shoot me down soon.
This is literally the first time. So that belt could break. There could be some other stuff that's not working correctly.
They sing on a sleepless night. Try to get me out of that tomorrow.
So I wouldn't say that there have been a ton of comments talking about this, but it's becoming more and more prevalent. A lot of people have been talking about this starter right here, saying that I should repair it. And at this point, it's just kind of a game. I kind of want to see when this thing will give out. I want to see how much longer the screwdriver is going to last. That may be like a temporarily permanent fix for the rest of this machine's life. If this quits working, then I will go ahead and change the starter out. But for me, it's not a big deal. I don't really care if I start the machine from right here or standing right here. Doesn't matter too much to me. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing started. We're gonna let it warm up. Then I'm gonna go up to the front, grab the hay rake first. Then I'll have to start at the 299 and actually pick up that sickle mower because that thing's pretty awkward to move around. So anyways, let's go ahead and get this thing started. We do need to make sure it's in neutral. That's the one thing that you should definitely do when starting with a screwdriver. Like, let's see. Nope. So while that thing's out there warming up, we're gonna go ahead and finish cleaning up the rest of this. All this hay right there is everything that was left in the baler when I was looking for that one piece of metal, and I cleaned out the entire thing. So that thing holds a bunch of hay, just some like weird nooks and crannies. And I'm guessing that if you're not gonna be doing any baling anytime soon, that's something that should probably happen on the regular. Otherwise, if it gets wet, moldy, turns nasty, I don't know. But anyways, let's go and get that in the trash can. Then I'll jump on the John Deere and go grab the hay rake. Man, you guys, this thing really needs a screw jack or a hydraulic jack on the front of it. This thing is heavy, but we got it up. Let's go ahead and get this thing moved up out of the way somehow. All right, at least something works on this. Let's see if I can go ahead and lift this whole thing up. Is that going the wrong way? Yep. Looks like we've successfully disengaged everything. The hay rake is not moving, so we're gonna go ahead and pick up the pace a little bit and get down to the shop. All right, I'm gonna run down to the 299 real quick, get that warmed up. And we gotta figure out how to get that sickle mower attachment. That thing's pretty goofy. All right, so the sickle mower is super goofy because you got a lot of weight right here, and then you have the blade attachment, which I think is probably like 6 feet long. So there's not really any good pick points. So I'm kind of thinking what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna like scoop up underneath it. Then I'm gonna run down to the shop, grab a chain, kind of fasten it to the bucket. And I think that'll work. Turns out I might not even need a chain. We got it scooped up with the bucket. It's resting about as far back as it can go. You guys can see we got that hanging way out there, but it's feeling pretty steady. So I'm gonna go ahead and just make my way back to the shop nice and slow. You guys can see that thing wobbles pretty good. So as far as design goes on this one, I think there may be a little bit of room for improvement. I really don't like how much that thing wobbles back and forth. But it is what it is. Let's go ahead and get it down to the shop. Well, right off the bat, I can already tell we're missing a couple things. We got these sharp, pointy, shear looking objects, which we're missing one right here. This bolt's nice and loose. And if we come around to the back side, it's looking like it just got ripped off because we're kind of got a little bit of disfiguration right here. So I'm probably gonna have to pick up a couple of these. I know Tractor Supply does carry those, so probably gonna keep some of those on hand. Probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have a handful of those as backups. And then we have these little blades, and I think these are the actual parts that move back and forth. But as far as the attachment itself, it's actually sitting incorrectly. This whole thing needs to be uprighted right now, and then this blade actually gets laid down. Yeah, that's not hard, like, at all. So I don't have a whole lot of time left today, so the last thing I'm gonna try and do is figure out how to get this to lay down because this just looks like bad news waiting to happen. So you guys can see we got some sort of lever right here that I'm guessing helps let that go down, that is engaged by this somehow. What in the world? I'm scratching my head a little bit on this one. It looks like it's directly engaged by when the PTO starts spinning somehow. No. What in the monkey's uncle is going on right here? So there's definitely some spring-loaded action stuff going on right here. Can't quite wrap my head around it yet, but as I push down on this thing, you guys can see we got those springs right there, and it's just slowly starting to come down. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's down, so I don't have to worry about it too much. So I'm guessing that it just pretty much rides along this edge. Everything's moving back and forth. So I'm assuming that the only thing that really controls the ride height is this edge over here, which looks to be pretty worn out. I need to figure out what this is actually supposed to look like, or the 3-point system over there. You could lift the whole implement up. So I gotta hit the internet tonight, figure out what's going on over here, see if there's any replacement stuff that I can buy so that this is like the correct ride height. I'm assuming it should be, I don't know, probably at least 2, maybe 3 inches off the ground. But since we have it down, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the PTO and see if this thing actually goes back and forth. Ooh, it does. Let me go ahead and set the camera down so we can kind of figure out what's going on. Oh, it's rough, but it's moving. There we go. I'm gonna try and do this one-handed for you. I don't know if I quite have the strength, but get a little bit closer. Oh. I can't do it with one hand, guys. Here we go. You guys can kind of see those moving back and forth. Then as I'm glancing over everything right now, to me it looks like this belt is not straight. So I'm wondering as if the faster this spins, if this is like some sort of centrifugal flush where this actually moves in closer. I don't like this. It's like almost rubbing on that one. But I'm not gonna know until we actually fire this thing up and get it moving full speed. So that's something we gotta figure out. So these old implements, they sure likes to use lumber in their builds. This one's got another piece right here, connects all the way down here, connects right here. I'm assuming this is some sort of fail-safe that if those shears get bound up, that this wood is supposed to break instead of sending all that damage into the tractor. That'd be my guess. But as far as today goes, that's all I'm gonna get done. I will be back up here tomorrow. We are gonna make a run into Tractor Supply, pick up some more of this stuff, get this cleaned up a little bit more, get it greased up. I really don't think there's gonna be a whole lot to do with any of this stuff. I think we'll get it done pretty quick. And then adjusting the hay rake, that one's gonna be pretty straightforward, so I will see you guys tomorrow. So one of the problems that I'm having with this unit is I don't know who makes it. I can't find a model that's been stamped on here anywhere. And any paint that was on here is missing. I don't even know what color it was. And from what I've read online, these things really aren't even made anymore because of safety concerns and some other reasons. So I don't know where to find this part. I have found a couple like replacement pieces, but I don't know if they're gonna be an exact fit. And I'm pretty sure there's just like a piece that actually goes in right here. That's like a wear point that's replaceable. And for whatever reason, this one does not have it. But as far as actually testing this thing out, we don't need to worry about that too much. I did pick up a new one of these at Tractor Supply this morning. They did not have the correct bolts. You would think that if they sell this piece, they should have the right bolts. This is a plow bolt from when we fixed the baler. It's not quite the right size, so I guess I'm gonna order another box of the correct ones just so we can have it to replace it. Because I know more of these things are gonna break once we actually start using it. And I only picked up one today. I think they're like 12, 13 bucks. So I don't really feel like replacing all of those if they don't need it. I think it's gonna be like on an as needed basis. I'll probably pick up like 2 or 3 just to have on hand. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and cut this one off. We're gonna go ahead and try and replace it with this one, see if it's the correct one. And then from there, we'll go ahead and take it out. We'll hook it up to the John Deere. We're gonna go try and cut some grass out there and see if this thing actually works. I'm gonna go grab another bolt. I will be right back. All right, well, I found out what size they are for sure. It is a 7/16 bolt. I tried putting a 1/2 inch in there. Did not quite fit, so I am gonna order a bunch of 7/16, probably by 1.5 or 2 inch long plow bolts. Let me go ahead and get this tooth tightened down. And then I think that's it. I think that's all we need to go ahead and get this thing working. You guys can see that this one is, it's in pretty rough shape. You guys can see how thin that is. A lot of them could probably use some replacing, but we're not gonna worry about that today. They did have a pretty nice little fix on here as far as keeping this thing upright while they were traveling. You guys can see they got a nice piece of baling twine right here, which I have since cut. It used to go all the way down over there and connect to that point. So when you were driving around, I'm guessing this thing bounces around quite a bit, and this would probably fall down when you're trying to move from point A to point B. So we may be manufacturing something at some point to keep this up and secure while we are moving around. But for now, I just see this as a hazard, so we're gonna go ahead and get rid of this old baling wire, maybe. Come on. All right, there's that one. And we'll go ahead and get rid of this one. Come on. A little bit of crumbling going on. All right, well, as far as the sickle mower goes, I think we are done. I'm gonna go ahead and add some grease to it. I really don't think it super needs it. A lot of the grease points that I see are just like the hinge assembly for this. I don't see it being attached to like the actual movement of the blades, but we're gonna go ahead and do it anyways. And then after that, I'm gonna try and slide it over there by hand so we can bring the John Deere in here and get it hooked up. But before we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and just make the minor adjustments on that thing because they're really not that complex. That's gonna be super easy to do. Am I supposed to do that? Not cool. On the baler, it was the last bolt. On this one, it's the last Zerk fitting. We got this bar right in the way, which is prohibiting me from getting any grease into that Zerk fitting. And I don't think there's any way to get around it other than like a 90-degree grease coupler, which I do not have. I was struggling with this, but I think I just activated my entire brain. As I'm looking at this, I realize this is offset. So as this rotates, this should move up, which will allow me to get grease in there. So we're gonna go ahead and try and, you know what? I'm gonna have to set this down to do that because it is not designed to move like that. So let's go ahead and bring this thing down. It does flow very smoothly. And as we look at it now, it is just a little bit higher. But let me go see, let me try, oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Wonderful. Man, these things were dry, dry, dry. Woo, look at that. Took like 10 pumps before grease started popping out of that thing. As far as the attachment goes, I think that's all the Zerk fittings that are on it. I may stumble across some more. The only ones that I have left to do are the PTO shaft, but I don't consider that to be part of the attachment. But I do need to put my GoPro in the fridge because it is scorching hot right now. So probably by the time the camera's done cooling down, I'll go ahead and have this thing adjusted. This one's really not that interesting. I'm just going from this bolt probably to that bolt or that bolt. And then I gotta grease that. And that's gonna be about it. So let me go ahead and get the GoPro and the camera. We'll get it cooled down. I'll get all that modified. Then we'll pull it back out and do some testing. All right, well now that things have cooled off a little bit, you guys can see we got our new bolt in there. I did add washers on both sides. I did not like how it was. And instead of that real flimsy cotter pin, we're gonna go ahead and do a slight upgrade to one of these. So we'll go ahead and drop it in there. Should go in somewhat smooth. So now if we're out in the field and we have to adjust this thing, it's gonna be a lot easier than the other style cotter pin that like goes through and then you bend the tab over. This one will just be able to pull out. This thread, in theory, should be able to come off pretty easy. It's not on there very tight. So hopefully we won't have to use any tools to get it adjusted. So that's taken care of. The last thing I need to do is just grease this up a little bit. All right, as far as uniformity goes, I think we're just about there. As you guys rotate this thing, you guys can see we got that little tine right there. That one touches the ground at pretty much the same time that one touches the ground. And a lot of these are more worn out than others. Like these two right here are super short. You guys can see we got a lot of space right here, whereas these ones are touching. Now, I'm not trying to spend a fortune to get these things up and working right now. We're still in the testing phases. When I was at Tractor Supply this morning, they actually only had one extra of these tines right here. So you guys can see that it's actually supposed to be like a bracket that holds two of them at the same time, and quite a few of them have broken. So I'm gonna have to put a list together, figure out exactly how many little tines or springs or fingers or whatever they're called. We're gonna have to figure out exactly how many we need, then I'll just go ahead and order them at one time. But for now, we're just trying to figure out the basic settings of this thing. But as it sits right now, this thing is way too low. And if you guys watched the video when we were trying this thing for the first time, this was like near impossible to move. But now that it's greased up, this thing moves super easy. You can lift the whole assembly up with just the turn of this knob right here. It's great. And let's see, let's go ahead and run this thing through a couple cycles. Still touching. So we gotta come up quite a bit more. It is possible for these little fingers to bend on these guardrails or whatever these are for. There's got to be some purpose to them. It probably helps push the hay this way. But as you guys bring this around, you guys can see we do have a couple that rub on it. You guys can hear them. But it's not too bad. As long as you're going the right way, it should just kick them out of the way still, so you don't have to worry about it too much. But I think as it sits now, I think we're good. I think this thing's fully adjusted. You guys can see that the tines get pretty close to the ground. A lot of them are probably about 1.5 inches. Some of them are super worn out and they're about 2.5 inches. So I'm gonna have to get a bunch of replacements, but I think this is gonna be about where we want it. It may change once we actually get it hooked up to the tractor because I think it brought it up just a little bit. So it's not the end of the world because once we get it hooked up, we can go ahead and just take it back down. But anyways, I'm done with this for now. We're gonna go ahead and get that thing situated. I'll get my truck moved out of the way. We'll go ahead and bring the John Deere in here and get this thing hooked up. So hypothetically speaking, I'm not gonna say that this did or did not happen to me, but if any of you have never worked on one of these things, be sure to keep your fingers out of this area right here. Because if you pull this bar down real fast, that bar that moves it back and forth stay stationary and those blades move and it can grab your finger pretty hard. Let's just pretend that I had my finger in there and I was moving it down very slowly and I felt a very slight pinch. Good chance that I hypothetically could have lost a finger. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and lift this back up, making sure that we keep our fingers out of these areas right here. All right, so now that I got it up, I'm gonna go ahead and rotate it. And actually I have to go ahead and slide that bar back in because I think that'll interfere with stuff. But that is not a problem anymore because I fixed it. Let's see, oh, piece of cake, guys, look at that. Oh, what a beautiful repair. Oh, too far. Like that, maybe? All right, we got it all put back together. It's slid back forward. Easy day. All right, well now it's probably time for the trickiest part of this whole repair, and that's getting this thing mounted up onto the John Deere. I hope the drawbars come down far enough just to pick it up off the ground, but we'll see. Oh, beautiful. It's like right where we want them. Bringing the big guns. top one. I'm gonna have to go steal that from the mower real quick. Not that it's a huge hassle, but it is a little bit of an inconvenience having to walk around like robbing parts off of this attachment to make the other attachment work. So I'm definitely gonna be picking up probably another one, if not two of these things, so we can make everything work without having to constantly be stealing parts. But on a quick side note, check out the tire on the baler. That slime seems to be holding strong, and I even forgot to put a block under there. So, might get around to it, might not. But anyways, let's go ahead and get back to the shop so we can get that sickle mower hooked up. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing hooked up. It almost fits. Gonna have to set the camera down to get this thing set up again. Then we got one last little thing that's fighting us, and that's that the PTO shaft does not want to extend out. You guys can see that it's retracted almost all the way. Hopefully it's not welded shut. It does look like it has quite a bit of dirt in there. All right, well, as far as I can tell, the sickle mower is ready to go. I'm super pumped to try this thing out, but it's gonna have to wait for just a minute because my neighbors are on their way over with a steer that we're gonna be holding for them. So as soon as we get that situated, we're gonna test this thing out. I'm gonna drive this thing up to the alleyway where we're gonna be keeping it. I'm sure they'll get a kick out of it too. But actually using it is gonna have to wait just a minute. Oh, I'm so excited for this, guys. One thing that we can test real quick is how this thing's gonna behave when we go ahead and lift up the implement for travel mode. So let's go ahead and see how it does. We're gonna go real slow. I think we're good. Let's roll. All right, we got the pin all situated. They're just gonna back up the trailer, open up the door, and push him out, and then they'll probably be gone. So I'll drive by in just a little bit and check him out, see how he's doing. Supposedly he's a pretty good looking steer. He's hanging out right in that trailer. Now it's back to the exciting part. We gotta go test the sickle mower. All right, so up towards the front, we really don't have that much left to mow that we can actually test it on. This field has a little bit of vegetation, not too much, but it's gonna be enough to test it. So let's go ahead and get this bad boy dropped down. Let's see. Something like that. Let's go ahead and undo this one, this one. Looks like they're headed out of here. That was quick. All right, well, best I can tell, this thing just kind of floats along the back of the tractor, and I don't know, never used one, so we'll see how this goes. I don't know if I'm supposed to adjust it up high or low, just throw it all the way down. I don't know. If any of you guys are pros on how to use one of these things, I'm open to suggestions, but until then, we're just gonna get that PTO going, see if it actually works. This is literally the first time, so that belt could break. There could be some other stuff that's not working correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and throttle up just a smidge. I don't think these things are supposed to be ripping back and forth, but I could be wrong. So we'll go up to 1500 RPMs. PTO is engaged. Let's go ahead and bring the clutch out. Let's see what happens. Real slow. Ooh. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off the tractor. We're gonna go take a look at it. So far, everything looks like it's working great. That plate's moving back and forth real fast. It's not rubbing against that green rock hard. That bolt's not in the way of anything. Let's go ahead and take a look at the actual mechanism itself. Everything's looking pretty good over here. I'm curious to see how long that piece of wood lasts. But, so as far as I'm concerned, everything looks pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and start getting the tractor moving and see how it actually cuts this stuff down. We're gonna try it in second gear first and see how it does. I think second gear is too slow. We're gonna move it up to third and bring the RPMs up just a smidge. This is one crazy contraption, but it seems to be working pretty good. It just chews through the mustard weed. All right, guys, well, I think the first test run was a huge success. I'm not gonna do the rest today because I got a bunch of other stuff that I actually gotta get done. The last thing that I wanna do is I actually wanna go ahead and drive with the attachment up and lift up the bar to see if it'll actually stay put while we're driving and not have to use the strap. I'm guessing that it won't because it used to have the baling wire on it and they probably put it on there for a reason. But let's go ahead and try it anyways and see how it does. It might stay put, I don't know. All right, well, so far it seems to be doing a pretty good job. Now, I'm not like racing back to the shop, but it doesn't seem to be falling over. If we just kick it at about 5 miles per hour or so and don't get too wild, I think we'll be just fine not needing that strap. All right, well, as you can tell, we made it back down to the shop and the sickle bar is still where it's supposed to be. So I don't think we're gonna really need that strap. We might put it up for like long-term storage, but when we're actually out in the field using it, like moving from place to place, I don't think we're gonna need it. I am super pumped because we are one step closer on being able to make hay. Well, I guess technically 2 steps because we got the hay rake all dialed in. It's easy to adjust now, so that thing's 100%. And the sickle mower is ready too. So technicalities. But regardless, I'm gonna go ahead and put this screws this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you do me a huge solid, like, subscribe, share this with your amigos, hit that notification button down below so you can continue to see our endeavors on eventually making our own hay and whatever else we got going on, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.